How's everyone doing this morning? You got a little extra time to listen to some Wham. Exactly. As you were coming in. Gosh, Molly, the judgment is hard this morning.
There was a lot of judgment coming from me.
I was just like, oh yeah, I like this song. Who is this again? And all the eyes in the studio went on me. I'm sorry.
You know, for once, I'm not the out generation. I feel like I'm the in generation in this room today. You're the out. I'm sorry.
Like I said, I knew who it was. I just was like, who is it again? And then you said Wham. I was like, oh yeah, right, of course. Of course.
One of my first crushes. George Michael.
Aw, how'd that work out for you?
Not real well. Not real well.
Well, good morning. You're listening to Off the Shelf. Thank you for tuning in with us this beautiful Friday morning. And we've got Molly Meyers-LaBadie there as my co-host. Good morning, Molly.
Morning.
On the third microphone, we have Robbie Apt, our Outreach Services Manager. Good morning, Robbie.
Good morning, everyone.
We are happy to talk with Robbie the second half of the show about a really cool service that she has had for quite some time, kids' crates and discovery bags for her in-home deliveries. And we just want to talk more about how awesome they are and how maybe you could get one for your home. So we'll stay tuned.
It's going to be so cool.
Yeah. We'll stay tuned.
Robbie's department does a lot people don't know about. So I love any chance we can get the word out of the magic they're doing every day.
Yeah, exactly. Outreach Services is one of the fun little secrets because everything that you do is outside of the library walls. So it's very special when you get to see what they do. But of course, before we go into all of that, we'd like to talk a little bit about books.
Books.
You guys know that today is National Read a Book Day.
It is National Read a Book Day. Well, I'm going to be able to do that. I hope everyone else here is too. And if you don't have a book that you're reading right now, we've got some recommendations.
We can totally hook you up.
Yeah. So what have you been reading lately, Molly?
Okay, this is going to be a Molly morning. So I have actually a book that was very uplifting, joyful, funny, everything I needed. It's called Mortuary Confidential. Undertaker Spill the Dirt.
That doesn't sound uplifting.
I'm going to tell you all about death in a really interesting way. So some of you may know I'm a little interested in sort of the macabre or the history. I've been to the Mortuary Museum in Marietta, Ohio. Highly suggest if you make it down there, you get an individual tour call. They'll walk you around. Fascinating. But I was drawn to this book. It's written by Kenneth McKensey and Todd Harrah. And what they did is they went out and interviewed undertakers. And this book is full of funny stories. Like, it's not an easy job. You're on call 24/7. You're waking up out of your bed to go get a body somewhere, to help a family. The stories in this were amazing. Families who show up with a truck. They're like, yep, mom died last night. And they go through the whole interview. And he's like, okay, where is your mother? We'll come get her body. And they're like, back of the truck.
No.
It's stories like, people die when it's icy out.
Yeah.
And if you've got to go get the body, you've got them on the gurney, you've done everything right. And then you hit the ice and you fall and the gurney slides. And I can see this happening. I can see it happening with books is my problem.
Right.
And then I'm like, but if I was in a slightly different job, it's also poignant. They tell stories of when they've known the individuals. Tragedies, also joy. It's such an interesting profession to me. This book is honest. They don't use names. They give little ideas of who they are, like a beer brewing. So this is something about this person's individual personality. They talk about the difficulties, when someone dies, if you're estranged from your family, what happens. There was one man who died in the 80s during the AIDS epidemic. And his family, when his father died, said, don't come. His aunt came to tell him he had died. Your mother does not want you there. Well, when he died, he told the friend, the mortician, who is his friend, I don't want you, whatever happens, to let her have my ashes. They go to my partner. But on top of that, this was a sommelier who bottled his own wine. I would like you to put me in a wine bottle. And so he had just done it. And ironically, the day that the partner came to get the wine, the mother came to demand the man's ashes. And so it's the whole story because they'd never met her. And it was this is a beautiful book. It is full of funny things. It's so respectful to those who've passed. It makes you respect and honor this profession a little bit more, gives you a little insight of what they actually do. I found myself laughing out loud. I have already, Mom, if you're listening, I know I've already sold you on this book. The audio is a wonderful reading. Again, it's called Mortuary Confidential, Undertaker Spill the Dirt. It's in those little short story type formats, sort of subsectioned. Be ready because, out of nowhere, you'll be laughing and then you'll be like, oh my gosh, you may be crying, because it's just a beautiful story of a job we don't talk about enough.
Right.
Death doesn't always have to be sad.
No.
We've lived really amazing lives in many cases. So, Mortuary Confidential, everybody.
That sounds
I think
great.
it's going to be a great fall October book.
Oh, that's a good
But
idea.
it's real,
Right.
yeah. It's
if
going to
you need
really
something
lead
to
you in.
usher you into the colder seasons.
Yes.
Exactly.
And again, audio or actually read it, just grab this book.
Grab it from your local library.
Grab it from your local library.
Very good.
Don't go buy it.
Robbie, I see your book. You've brought a physical book in front of you, and it's by
do.
one of my favorite authors. Tell us a little bit about it.
So I have The Demon of Unrest today by Erik Larson, one of my favorite authors. I'm sort of a history buff, so he's one of my favorite authors. If you like history, I highly recommend him. He writes about different eras of history, so if you like a different era, if you don't like the Civil War, this one is definitely about the Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
It starts in the 1860s with Abraham Lincoln and his rise to be president, the struggle there. But it goes into the Civil War, the start of the Civil War at Fort Sumter, and it goes more in depth with the characters. That's what I like about his materials.
Right.
So he's talking about a governor who's running to be governor. He's talking about a slave owner. He's talking about the wife of a slave owner and her struggle between the love for her husband and her detest for slavery and how she handles that.
Mm-hmm.
It also goes into medicine during that era. A little bit of bloodletting, which they thought was the cure for everything.
Everything.
Trips to Europe were the big thing to make you feel better. Go spend your money on a bunch of paintings, and bring them back.
I won't argue with that. I can't argue with that.
I like how in depth he goes with the characters and how much you think of the Civil War, you think of the wars, the battles,
Right.
The devastation. But he goes more in depth with the characters, the people. Actual research goes into it, so he's right on point.
Yeah, the funny thing about Erik Larson is that he writes history books, but he doesn't write history books.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to get a timeline of dates and events and wars and body counts. You're going to get the people and the stories and the context.
It is all the stories,
Yeah.
the way he can pull that in. It reads like a fiction, but it's not.
When we talk about his type of writing, narrative nonfiction, you think you're reading a fiction, but it really is just a beautifully written, true
You
story.
definitely might check the call number when you're reading it just to make sure that it's not fiction.
I've done that.
Nonfiction.
Yeah, is this nonfiction? Right.
He's
Yeah.
definitely a storyteller.
Yes. So this is The Demon of Unrest. It's an Erik Larson, and this one takes place during the Civil War.
Yes.
Very good.
Love it.
Well, I've got something. We're all a little dark this morning. So
Mine was joyful,
Yours
just
was
about death.
joyful dark, yes. Mine is called Down Among the Sticks and Bones. It's by Seanen McGuire. And this is the second in the Wayward Children stories. If you remember, I talked earlier this summer about a story called Every Heart a Doorway, which was the first in this Wayward Children series. And Every Heart a Doorway is about a school for children who have come back from magical worlds, basically. Alice went through the looking glass or down the rabbit hole. And, we have Wendy who flew off with Peter to Neverland. But they all come home at some point. And so what happens and how do they adjust when they come home? And so that's the context of Every Heart a Doorway. They go to a school where they can kind of readjust to our world. In Down Among the Sticks and Bones, they take two characters who we met in that first story, Jack and Jill, short for Jacqueline and Jillian. And they give us the backstory, how they grew up, how their parents treated them. They were twins, born at the same time, of course, both girls. But of course, the father could not handle not having his boy, and so they immediately identified the two girls as, you will be our girl and you will be our boy, and they raised them in that way. They cut one's hair and put her in, clothes that she could get rough and tumble in, and they put the other one with long hair and frilly dresses. And she comments in this book that she knew how to spell dirt before she knew how to spell her name. She knew how to wash herself clean before she knew how to spell her name. And so there's some resentment that the parents have built between them just because of that, making them so different, not letting them feel truly like sisters and identify with each other and be who maybe they wanted to be. And so when they find their magical doorway to take them to their magical land, it takes them to a very dark place called the Moors. The Moors is a place where nights are very long, days are very short, and everything is very dry and kind of wasted. It's a high logic world. They describe in the first book, like, is your magical world high chaos or high logic? Is it good or is it evil? And so they're in a high logic, probably leaning toward evil kind of world. And then even whenever they get into this world, there are two leaders who serve this world, and they have agreements with each foundling or each child that comes through the doorways, who gets what child when. And when two come through who look identical, they decide that they will split the children up. And so, again, the girls are split, and they're having these different experiences, one with what you might call mad scientist, and one with what you might call a creature of the night. So you're not quite sure where their stories are taking them, but what we do know, because of the first book, is we know that they leave that world at some point. And so what happens to them while they're there before they go to the Wayward School. So it's called Down Among the Sticks and Bones. It's very short. Mostly for adult readers, but older young adults could enjoy it too.
That sounds lovely.
Yes, it's on Hoopla. So I would, and you don't have to start with Every Heart a Doorway, but it is a nice introduction. But if you read this one first, it would be kind of a prologue if you did that. So we will take a break. We'll come back on the other half with Robbie Apt, who is our Outreach Services Manager, and we will be talking about kids' crates and discovery bags. So if you have littles in your life, you will want to stay tuned. We are happy to be back. We're also happy that our friends at the Delaware County Board of Developmental Disabilities has a great block party last night.
Yes. How did that go? You were there, weren't you?
It was wonderful. I stole Robbie's bookmobile. She lets me do that occasionally.
Yes.
And we went over to the North Orange Park, so just around the corner, and we saw, I don't know, probably close to 150, 200 people come by.
I love that.
They signed up for library cards, checked out books, walked inside the bookmobile. So it's really a great way to introduce the community to a lot of the things that we do outside of our doors, which is a perfect segue to talking to Robbie Apt, our Outreach Services Manager this morning. So, Robbie, one of the things you do, of course, is drive the bookmobile.
Yes.
That's, of course, a whole lot of fun.
Yes.
You take it to, what sorts of places do you take it to?
So we take it to daycares, senior facilities. We do community stops in the summer. We do special events like Nicole did last night.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, various places.
Yeah, and it's a good time. And anyone that has these sorts of facilities can sign up to have the bookmobile come if it works within your schedule. Is that right?
Yes, if we have space in our bookmobile, you can sign up. If you're a daycare, we'll come to your facility every 3 weeks. If you have a senior housing development, we'll come also every 3 weeks, and we'll find a spot on our schedule.
Mm-hmm. You know, when I was growing up, I was a bookmobile baby. Our stops were it was a Big Bear back then. But Mom may correct me later, but they would come to the Big Bear, and I remember always going right before the pool, so we'd have reading materials for the pool.
Oh, neat.
And I ended up in the newspaper once in my little bikini, pulling my little books. I couldn't have been more than like 4 or 5. Pulling my books. My sister Julie was in it too. So I like to say my library career started because of a bookmobile.
And that is what a lot of folks tell us, is that they remember those community stops, pulling up into a park or a public area or a cul-de-sac or things like that. And that's what you've kind of gotten back into over the summers, of course. A little bit harder during the winter. but over the summer.
It's definitely hard to fit everybody in the schedule. We used to have a 2-week schedule. Now we went to a 3-week schedule. We've had a bookmobile at the library since the 1940s.
That's
at the
so
Carnegie
amazing.
Building. We have one lady on our home delivery service that actually worked at the Carnegie, and she remembers the bookmobile.
I
so that's
love
pretty
it.
fun.
Yeah, and that's a great transition. So then one of the other things that you do that doesn't require the big bus, but does require a cool van, is you deliver to folks' homes directly. So how does someone get your books right to their home?
It's pretty easy to sign up for library service delivery to your home. You can do an application online, which we just created and is there for you to do easily. You can call us. You can email us. Call the library and ask for outreach services, and we will set you up. That delivery is on a 3-week schedule. You can be live in your home and need service if you're elderly. You can have hip surgery and need us for 3 weeks. You can be elderly and not want to go to drive in the winter, and we'll do service during the winter months.
Oh, great. So, yeah, that was one of my questions is there like very specific qualifications?
There's an age requirement, but it can be somebody who's blind, who has cognitive disabilities. We have a few people that are blind on our service.
And so then one of the big things that we want to talk about today is your discovery bags and your kids crates. And so those are for some of our younger patrons.
Yeah, when you think of outreach, you normally think of bookmobile and home delivery services, but we have about 14, 15 services that we do other than those things. So 2 of those are discovery bags and kids crates, which go to in-home babysitters. So if you're a babysitter and you're working in someone's home or you're working in your own home, you can sign up for library services. Those include what we call as a discovery bag, and the other service is a kids crate, and they kind of work together. The discovery bag is a bag filled with books. It has about 8 books in. It also has DVDs. It has some learning items like coloring sheets, early literacy tips. It has an activity like a toy, and those come once a month. If you have older kids that don't fit those types of books and those books that are usually for 0 to 5-year-olds, then you're going to want a kids crate. And that's packed specifically for you, for the age kids that you have. So if you have like 5 kids, 2 girls, 2 boys, and a 3-year-old, we can be specific with our pack. You can tell us how many books you want, what types of books you want. I want books for my boys at the 5th grade level. I want books for my girls at a 3rd grade level and a 1st grade level. So it's very specific for your kids.
It could even be a lot of folks who are in-home babysitters, in-home care providers. You know, they might do mornings only or afternoons only for the kids who are going to elementary school. You know, just to kind of fill that gap for working parents. And, you know, they might want to come home and have something, or come to that babysitter's house and have something leisurely, but they also might want to come to that babysitter's house and have something kind of fun. So you'd pack nice things like coloring sheets, you pack nice things like activity sheets, and we also have a really cool like school resource. So I bet if somebody wanted to request even flashcards, you know, you could throw a flashcard set in there if you wanted to.
So really, if you're asking us to bring you a discovery bag or kids crate, it doesn't really stop there. If you want something else, some other type of material from the library, we're more than welcome.
We're coming anyway, aren't we?
Exactly.
Yeah, we're coming anyway.
Exactly. So that is, again, just kind of like you were saying, very easy to get signed up for. You have so many different ways to be contacted. DelawareLibrary.org/outreach is one of the first easiest ways. You'll scroll down and you'll see the Discovery Bag and Kids Crate application. But if you've heard of anything else that interests you this morning, or you know you have someone in your life who is an elderly parent and you think that they might benefit from one of these services, give our outreach services department a call.
Yes, just like anything else that you have questions about, you can contact the library and ask, and we'll find the answer for you.
Always. We're
So,
really good
give
at
us a
that.
call.
We have a minute to give a quick plug to a brand new program that just started, which is we've got some iPads that came through.
Oh, this is so exciting to me. This is so
funds,
exciting.
Healthy Aging Grant funds that came from the state of Ohio, County Commissioner's Source Point, and also thanks to the federal government with some leftover ARPA funds. These tablets are all preloaded with ebooks, and so we're giving it a trial run to see about some of our home delivery patrons and how they
Yes.
might do with ebooks.
So we have preloaded the ebooks by theme, so they'll be downloaded with all mystery books, all romance books, or another one will have all new materials on it. We have 25 e-readers that we received. Most of those are going to home delivery patrons like Nicole mentioned, but we have 5 that are going to activities directors in nursing facilities that will be loaded with books, of course books, but also some activities that they can do, like art activities and other things that they can work with their residents with.
Yeah. So we're
wonderful.
Very grateful for the Healthy Aging Grant from State of Ohio and all the groups that are working along with that for the funds to launch this project.
I know. And it's going to be the neat thing with the iPads is you can use the large print functions. You can change your contrast of your print. You can use the dyslexic font, all of those things. So we're excited to see in this new program how much this can help people increase their reading on Read a Good Book Day.
Their digital literacy.
National
Exactly.
Read a Book Day.
It's still too early to say all the words in order.
Well, I'm going to give one quick plug before we go. We've just got time for that story times are back. Everybody's been missing them, but they are back. They are good to go. So stop by.
Can I throw out, too,
Yes.
on the 9th, we have Grandparents' Day Family Story Time to celebrate Grandparents' Day. That is from 5:30 to 6:30 on the 9th. And, get over to Liberty, celebrate being a grandparent. My gosh, they're the most fun.
Yeah, or if you don't have a grandparent who lives nearby, but you have a special friend, bring your special friend.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right, well, that will be our time. Thank you, Mark, for guiding us on the board.
As always.
Molly, thank you for being our co-host.
I love it.
Robbie, thank you for being our guest.
You're welcome.
And until next week, we will see you in the stacks.